Hare Krishna. So Krishna has been speaking about the material world. What happens to the material world in the day of Brahma, at the night of Brahma? And basically the essence was, in the day of Brahma, this material manifestation is there. But at the night of Brahma, all that is annihilated. And at the end of life of Brahma, everything is annihilated. So now Krishna is giving a hope to all the sadhakas, saying there is some other world also. Let's see what is that other world. In shloka number 20. Parastasmatu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yaha sa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. So here Krishna is saying that parastasmat tu avyaktah, there is another unmanifest nature, avyaktah, which is bhavah anyah avyaktat sanatanah. So which is sanatanah, which is eternal, and it is avyaktat tu bhavah anya. It is transcendental now. It is beyond what? Beyond the current discussion that we had about manifested and unmanifested matter of this material world. And then it is said here that yaha na vinashyati, this particular world is never annihilated. Sa sarveshu bhuteshu na shatsu, even when the entire world here, everything in this world is annihilated, that world remains as it is. So basically this particular shloka says that there is another world. Even when this world is annihilated, that is eternal and stays forever. So let's see some of the important points here. Krishna's superior spiritual energy is transcendental and eternal. Now there are two types of energies that we have seen in the 7th chapter, shloka number 4 and 5. So in shloka number 4, we said, Bhumir apo anala vayu kham mano buddhir evacha ahankara ityam me bhinna prakriti rashtada. There Krishna spoke about the material energy, saying, my material energy comprises of the basic elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, then mind, intelligence, ego, false ego. And then he spoke about the spiritual energy. Apreyam itastvanyam prakritim vidhime param jiva bhuta mahabhavo edam daryate jagat. So there Krishna is saying that there is a superior energy of mind which comprises of the living entities, that is all of us. And what are these living entities doing? These living entities are exploiting the inferior energy of the Lord, inferior nature basically. The superior nature living entities are exploiting the inferior material nature. Now when it comes to the living entities are called as Tathashta Shakti or marginal potency of the Lord. So there is something called as Antaranga Shakti of the Lord and Bahiranga Shakti of the Lord. Now what is Antaranga Shakti? Antaranga Shakti is the spiritual energy of the Lord. What is Bahiranga Shakti? The material energy of the Lord. And what is Tathashta Shakti? The one who is in between spiritual and material. That is all of us, we. Why we are called as Tathashta? Because we can fall in either of the category. If we are practicing spirituality, if we are practicing bhakti, chanting the holy names of the Lord, we take shelter of Antaranga Shakti, spiritual energy. That is Srimati Radharani. And if we are not practicing bhakti, if we are doing sense gratification, we are there in this material world, enjoying, thinking that we are enjoying, what happens? The person is under the Bahiranga Shakti of the Lord. And Bahiranga Shakti is none other than Durga, who is an expansion of Srimati Radharani in the material world. So in this way we understand that there is Antaranga Shakti, there is Bahiranga Shakti and Tathashta Shakti. Now let's understand one thing, that this material world is managed by whom? Managed by the Bahiranga Shakti of the Lord. And the spiritual world is managed by whom? The Antaranga Shakti of the Lord. So in this way we understand that the spiritual energy that is there, Antaranga Shakti, is transcendental, that is beyond this material nature, That because that's in spiritual realm. So there is no question of any touch with the material world. And another important thing is the spiritual world or spiritual energy is always eternal. There's nothing called as annihilation for the spiritual world. So it is said that this material world will get annihilated, but the spiritual world will remain as it is. So it is transcendental and eternal. Here again it is given that it is beyond all changes of material nature, which is manifest and annihilated during the days and nights of Brahma. So see, this entire material world that is there, obviously the primary creator is Mahavishnu, from whose body, from the pores of his body, from each pore comes a universe. And in that universe, Brahma does the secondary creation. So now the secondary creation that is there, that depends on Brahma. So when Brahma goes to sleep, all that is just vanquished. But then the spiritual world, there is no jurisdiction of Brahma there. There is no jurisdiction of any living entity. It's the jurisdiction, or it's directly under the shelter of the spiritual energy of Krishna. So where is the question of annihilation there? Where is the question of creation there? It is eternal from time immemorial, and it will be eternal for time immemorial. It will be always there, it's eternal. But the material world that is there will be manifestation, unmanifestation, annihilation, creation. All these things will go on and on and on. Why? Because that is the nature of material world. So in the previous shlokas we saw, Krishna gave a stamp to this material world, saying that this material world is dukkhalayam and ashashvatam. So this word ashashvatam is very important. Ashashvatam means temporary. And temporary means what? The things which keep changing. So in this material world, things keep changing. Birth, death, there's change that's always there. And because of all this birth, death, disease, old age, what happens? Dukkhalayam. This entire world is full of dukkha. So here we understand the spiritual world is untouched by various contamination of this material world. And finally it is said that Krishna's superior energy is completely opposite in quality to material nature. So again, this is very clear. So what are things in the material world? As we already said now, dukkhalayam and ashashvatam. There is dukkha and everything is ashashvat. What about spiritual world? Spiritual world is all about shashvat sukha, permanent happiness. Spiritual world is very much, the quality of the spiritual world is very much described as Sat, Chit and Ananda. These three aspects are there. Sat means eternal. Chit means full of knowledge. And Ananda means full of bliss. So these are the three important characteristics of spiritual world. And when it comes to material world, it is Asat. It's temporary, it's not eternal. Achit, it is full of ignorance. Everything in this world, material world, is jada, full of ignorance. And Nirananda, every single step there is vipada, there is danger. So where is the question of Ananda here in this world? Obviously, we are in illusion all the time thinking there is some Ananda, let me search for it, let me get it. But the actual fact is there is no Ananda here in this world. So in this way, we understand that the spiritual world and the material world are actually completely opposite. But one thing is very clear, that the spiritual world's reflection, the perverted reflection, is this material world. So in this way, there's a great difference between spiritual world and material world, and the maximum population created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides in spiritual world. Spiritual world is 3/4 of creation of the Lord. It's called as three-path vibhuti. And this material world is 1/4 of Lord's creation. It's called as Ekpad Vibhuti. So spiritual world is actually greater in size, and it's also greater when it comes to the population there, that is the living entities. But when it comes to material world, only criminals are sent here who have done some mischief and who want to continue doing mischief. They are here. But then yes, the ones who know about the spiritual world and start practicing bhakti, they are the ones who get transformed, their hearts get transformed, they aspire to go to that place which is Sat, Chit and Ananda. So having spoken about this, Krishna gives more details of the spiritual world in the next shloka. So let's see that in the next video. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.